CNN Student News starts right now. I'm Carl Azus. Things are changing rapidly in Ukraine. Yesterday, more Russian troops reportedly entered Crimea. It's a southern region of Ukraine where there's a lot of support for Russia. A Crimean official said things there were quiet last night. There were no signs of fighting. Ukraine's ousted president, Viktor Yanukovych, said he asked Russia to send in its military to establish peace and to defend the people of Ukraine. The United States is considering sanctions, economic punishments against Russia. It says Russia broke international law by sending troops to Ukraine. It's also offering money to support Ukraine's new government. Some of the ripple effects: Russia's stock market was down, Europe's were down, America's was down. Corn, wheat, and oil prices were up. Ukraine's a top grain producer for Europe, so a conflict there could disrupt that. And Russia supplies about 25% of Europe's natural gas. Much of that flows through pipelines in Ukraine. It shows you how the global economy is connected and affected by events in a nation that's about the size of Texas.
There have been a lot of questions about Russia's interest in Ukraine as well as the West's interest, so we could look at the map and we'll get a much better sense. First of all, a reminder here, Ukraine is in Europe. It's not a million miles away. The capital just a few hundred miles from cities that Americans travel to all the time: Rome, Paris, London. And look here, on its western border, 4 key American allies: Poland, Slovakia, Hungary, Romania, all members of NATO. And under NATO, the U.S. has an obligation, a treaty obligation, to defend them if they come under threat. Now, Ukraine not a member of NATO, but in recent years there's been a lot of talk about bringing them into a closer relationship. Let's get a better sense now of Russia's interest there. You look at Crimea. On the tip of that peninsula, the Sevastopol military naval base. This is the headquarters of Russia's Black Sea Fleet. It's their only warm water port. All the ports up north, they're frozen in winter. Access to the Black Sea, to the Mediterranean, the Atlantic, essential for Russia, and that's the first place that many of those 6,000 and even more Russian troops went when they crossed the border from Russia into Crimea, a reminder, sovereign Ukrainian territory. But let's look inside the country as well, because there's a real split between East and West there. Western part of the country here leans towards Europe. Only 5% of the population in these parts speak Russian, ethnic Russian. Eastern part of the country, 75% here, they speak Russian, they're ethnic, they feel the pull towards Russia. This part of the country feels the pull towards the West and Europe. Jim Sciutto, CNN, New York.
From Ukraine, we're moving to Iran, a Middle Eastern nation of about 80 million people. Its Muslim leaders want that number to go up and fast. Iran's supreme leader says if people have 4 or 5 children and they're able to find jobs, they'll contribute to Iran's development. That jobs part may be the tough part. More than 18% of Iran's population is estimated to be living below the poverty line, and that's made some folks hesitant to have kids.
Iran's population is still young, roughly 45% under 25, including these munchkins. But under an effective government family planning campaign designed to counter a baby boom during the 1980s, family size dropped drastically from 7 children to 2 today.
They are worried about it.
Analyst Saeed Leilaz says 40 years from now, Iran may not have enough young workers to drive the economy, doctors and nurses to care for the elderly, and soldiers to bolster the military. Authorities have already set plans this year to extend military duty from 21 months to 24.
We have been too young 10 years ago, 15 years ago. We are too middle-aged people, and we will be too old people 20, 30 years later. This is a very bad trend.
Many here say the campaign to get Iranians to have more babies won't work because in a failing economy, they're choosing to stay single.
It is very difficult to get married, let alone having a lot of babies.
You mean in addition to me and a wife being poor, we should drag children into this too, asks Bachelor Behruz Mirzajani. 25-year-old Pejman Roshan and his wife say they do plan to add to the family. An only child is not good, says Roshan. I don't want my society to be old. It keeps the economy from growing. For the Roshans, the biggest challenge is convincing their son. Do you want brothers and sisters, asks Dad. No, clucks Ali. Reza Sayah, CNN, Tehran.
Time for the shout out. Which of these events occurred in 1957? If you think you know it, shout it out. Was it when the first satellite launched, Korean War ended, color TV was introduced, or Disneyland opened? You've got 3 seconds. Go. The only one of these events that happened in 1957 concerned a satellite named Sputnik 1, the first man-made satellite in orbit. That's your answer, and that's your shout-out.
Sputnik 1 lasted about a year before it re-entered Earth's atmosphere and burned up, but thousands of other objects we've launched into space don't do that. They just hang out in orbit, spinning around the Earth until they possibly hit something. A lot of you saw the Oscar-winning movie Gravity. Is it only a matter of time before space junk threatens space travelers?
There's about 5,000 large objects in Earth orbit, and there's only about 1,000 that are functioning. You got a bunch of electronics up there. You got rocket engines that have to be used to put the object in orbit. I published my paper in 1978 on which led to this Kessler syndrome name. It's a cascading phenomena in the sense that when things break up, they produce both a very large distribution of small fragments and a smaller number of larger fragments. And those larger fragments are still large enough to go on and hit a satellite and totally break it up. And so it cascades into an increasing number of collisions as with time. It's a slow process. It's not something that would normally happen as quickly as demonstrated in the movie Gravity, but it's still a real process. The film illustrated the larger fragments breaking things up, but at the same time there would have been a lot more small fragments doing things like penetrating the suits and causing leaks, or penetrating the capsules that the astronauts were in, causing leaks, making them uninhabitable. So, and that would be a much more probable thing to happen actually than the cascading that's shown. The space station was one of the first vehicles to be designed to be protected against orbital debris. And consequently, they had to, in order to get the safety that they wanted, they had to add shielding to all the habitation modules. And that shielding is to protect them against roughly marble-sized objects traveling at about 10 kilometers per second. They also had to worry about the larger stuff that would totally break up the space station if it were hit by a satellite. And so they do collision avoidance in order to avoid that. But there is a region between the 1 centimeter and the roughly 10 centimeter, which is the largest thing that they can track, where the space station is totally vulnerable. There's nothing they can do. They can't see it coming. They can't maneuver to get out of the way. And if it were to hit a module, it would be catastrophic to the people inside that module.
Time for the CNN Student News Roll Call. It seems today's theme's about green. In Henderson, Nevada, we've got the Gators of Green Valley High School. In East Grand Forks, Minnesota, we've got the Green Wave of East Grand Forks Senior High. And finally, the Hornets. What's green about that? They're watching from Greenville Weston High School in Greenville, Mississippi. Alaska, not very green this time of year, but the snow, ice, and unexpected obstacles are all part of the Iditarod, what's known as the last great race. It started Sunday with this ceremonial trot through Anchorage. It'll cover about 1,100 miles, crossing 2 mountain ranges on a winding path to Nome. The modern version of this began in 1973, but its roots are in the early 1900s when sled dogs helped people get mail and supplies to mining camps in northwest Alaska. Today's dog teams are supervised by the mushers and race veterinarians to make sure they get through safely and healthily. It's spring training for the boys this summer, and the Milwaukee Brewers have a team member who's a serious publicity hound. Meet Hank. He's probably around 2 years old, but no one knows for sure because he's a stray. He just wandered into the team's training camp one day. When they weren't able to find his owner, well, the Brewers just adopted him. Hasn't had one at bat yet, but Hank's already a star. The number on his jersey, 1. He came out of left field, caught the team off base, but seems to be having a ball. If the Brewers do well, we'll know what dogged their opponents, what made them pant, what got Milwaukee into the Howl of Fame. He's a regular Yogi Barka, a Steven Strauss bark, a Babe Ruth. He's an instant hit as long as he avoids the catcher for all K9 innings. I'm Carl Azus, and I'm out.